All right, we have a little after 5:30. This is the City of Green Bay Ethics Committee. We are here for a meeting. Call the meeting to order, and we'll just go through with roll call and just kind of announce yourself for the tape so that we know who's out here.
Mark Olson.
Don Fuller.
Bill Vandekamp.
Bill Galvin.
Very good. You should have received a copy of the agenda for tonight's meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any additions to the agenda, or are we set as it is? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Item number 3, approval of the minutes of the, let's see, what was our date? June 13th meeting of the Ethics Board. You've all got a copy of those. Are there any additions or corrections to that? Otherwise, is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Again, any additions or corrections? Otherwise, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Item number 3. That is adoption of findings of fact and conclusions of law in the matter of the ethics complaint against Chris Weary filed by Debbie Jocks under the City of Green Bay Code of Ethics, Section 1.90, Sections 1, 2, and 3. You all received, or should have received, a document from the City Attorney's Office, who had, from our last meeting, agreed to prepare these. I know that there was another version that I had before. The one that you should have should state staff proposed findings of fact and conclusions of law in bold print at the top. We all got the same copy?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Is there any discussion on the proposed findings and conclusions of law?
No.
I have none. Anybody else have any?
None.
Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to
You
approve.
think we could have it? You think you could tell us what it is?
Well, it's
We have copies over here.
there's copies, I think, are out there. So is there I'm sorry, was there a motion to approve?
Yes.
We have a motion, was there a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion
Second.
and a second from Mr. Olson. Any further discussion? Otherwise, all in favor of approving the findings of fact and conclusions of law, please indicate by stating aye.
Aye.
Aye, and motion carries. And I would just note that, as referenced on the bottom of the conclusions above the signature line is a notice that goes along with this, that either the complainant or the person charged may file an objection to the findings of fact and conclusions of law by 5 p.m. on July 19, 2016, and they shall have an opportunity to present arguments supporting those objections to the Common Council. So that is part of, it's not a direct part of our conclusions of law, but that is a notice to the parties if there's any objections to these documents, or this document as proposed. Those objections will be made to the City Council, not to our Ethics Board. All right, so now that the findings of fact and conclusions of law have been approved by our board, the next item on the agenda is a referral of those findings and conclusions from the complaint against Chris Weary filed by Ms. Jakes under the City of Green Bay Code of Ethics to the Common Council for action. Is there a motion to that effect?
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion, and I will second that motion. Any further discussion, or any discussion, questions?
Can I ask a question?
Just a second. Can we have a motion to open the floor?
Motion to open the floor.
Second.
Motion,
I'm acting Alderman, I don't know if you have to do that.
well, we'll do it anyway, so it's on the record.
Okay.
So there's a motion to open the floor. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Alderman Zille?
Who compiled these findings of facts and conclusions of law? Was it your committee?
Yes, these were the findings that were discussed at the conclusion of the hearing on June 13th, and they were discussed, and we went through them both in sort of a handwritten format. City attorney took notes on those, and then they prepared this for our review. Believe we got a draft about a week ago, more or less, and then the final one was presented here earlier today for us to review and then act on, which we did.
Now, this is more commentary, but I'll give a question. Do you realize the standards you set here, it would come to follow if this is legitimate, which I have been on record to say that I don't even think this code of ethics is constitutionally legal, but operating as we do, this puts the standard pretty darn low. Just about, you can probably get ready to start hearing hundreds of these a year.
Well, first of all, let me indicate that this was brought under the Code of Ethics, which, from my understanding, I've been on the Ethics Board for 20 years, and it's been...
The ethics board is totally different than the code of conduct.
Right, and this is not a Code of Conduct case. This was a Code of Ethics complaint, not a Code of Conduct, so it's completely different. They're two different standards, two different set of rules, and the complaint was filed under the Code of Ethics, 1.90, so 1, 2, and 3 were the three section or subsections that were listed. So we didn't address this under the Code of Conduct. We addressed it under the Code of Ethics.
Well, I tell you, my reading of the code of ethics that comes down from the state of Wisconsin. Now, I'm not a lawyer. I have no degree in it, but I've been around a long time. And the code of ethics, although it has some fancy verbiage in it, basically comes down to conflicts of interest. And if you're recommending council action on something, where is the conflict of interest?
Well, we were following the Code of Ethics. I recognize that the state has a Code of Ethics. We were by, I forget the provision number, but by one of the provisions in the Code of Ethics, we are, as a committee, as a board, we are limited to what's in the City of Green Bay Code of Ethics. So that's what we followed in reviewing this.
This is adopted from the state, right?
I can't address that. All I can address is that we reviewed, in our deliberations, we reviewed the Code of Ethics, and that's what we acted on.
So in your opinion, the code of ethics has something to do other than conflicts of interest, financial conflicts of interest?
What's stated in the Code of Ethics, yes.
Well, I'm asking you.
And that's what I'm saying. We looked at this under...
That's not an answer. It's in the code of ethics. How is it in the code of ethics? Would you pinpoint it?
As is stated in the code itself and in the findings of fact.
I guess, could you just review that a little bit with us?
We have.
Could you do that?
I'm not going to do that tonight on the record because we've got other things to take care of here, but so the hearing took place based on the Code of Ethics, not on the Code of Conduct, and we reached the conclusions.
You found it had merit.
We found that based on the facts that were presented and the code of the City of Green Bay Code of Ethics, that these conclusions of law is stated in here that there was a violation. Yes.
Well,
And that was a
okay,
unanimous decision.
Well,
We
based
can
on-
all beg to differ,
Is that based
but
on someone's recommendation to you?
nope, it was based on our review of the Code of Ethics.
And did you review this privately, or was this at the last meeting?
I can state for myself, I've looked at the Code of Ethics a number of times over the last 20 years, and we looked at it again, we went through it again, section by section that was referenced in the complaint, and that's what our decision was based on.
Well, I tell you, my reading
Oh,
is
we
totally
can-
different here. I think you're making a farce out of our code of ethics. That's my
Well,
opinion.
I would certainly disagree, and I
Well,
think that's
we
an
can all
affront,
disagree.
that's an affront to those of us who have spent a lot of time dealing with this.
Well,
We
if
each
it's in
have
front,
a
I'm just
different,
telling you my opinion of it, that you made a farce out of our code of ethics. I've been here 40 years, and this ethics committee has hardly met
That's
in
correct.
all these years for any reason. And something as frivolous as this, outside of local government, outside of conflicts of interest,
Well,
and you're making
Again,
judgments
I'm not
about it?
gonna debate this. Your version of frivolous and mine are probably different. But we had a hearing. There were probably a good hour of deliberations. And the findings of fact that you have a copy of are the decision that was reached by this committee. And we're gonna go forward with it.
Well, you have every right to do it, but my opinion, this is nothing more than a kangaroo court here.
Is there a motion to close the floor?
Motion to close the floor.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. So the findings have been approved, they have been referred to council, and I believe we voted on that, or did we not?
It has not been voted on yet.
All right, so we had a motion and a second to refer these findings of fact on to the common council for appropriate action. Any further discussion from the board?
No.
All in favor then signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, item number 6 is election of board chair. 6 and 7, election of board chair and vice chair. My reading of the code doesn't, I'm not exactly sure it requires it to be done annually, but I think that would be appropriate since the members of the board change annually through appointments and so forth. So I requested that it be reviewed and this be on the agenda for tonight. Item number 6, again, is election of the board chair. I have no problem staying on, but if somebody else certainly wants this, you're more than welcome to step forward. But that's something just so we have it in the record. It was last year about the same time that we went through the election that ended up with me sitting here, so.
I'll make a motion that you continue in that role for the upcoming year.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any further discussion or any other nominations? Any other nominations? Any other nominations? All right, hearing none, we'll close the nominations and ask for a vote. All in favor of myself continuing to serve as the chair of the committee, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? My wife's not here, so she'd say yes. All right, thank you very much. Now moving on to vice chair, which is currently Mark. Is there, Mark, you want to stay on?
Sure. Happy to do it.
All right, so we have Mark indicating he's willing to stay on. Is there a motion to reappoint Mark as vice chair?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Item number 8, consideration and possible action on request for confidential advisory opinion from employee pursuant to Wisconsin statutes 19.9 or 19.59 sub 5 and the Green Bay Municipal Code of Ethics section 1.90 sub 9. Ms. Chavez, would you update us as to what this is?
Yes, sir. So what you have in front of you is a memo explaining a situation we received from, a request for advisory opinion we received from an employee of the city. Under the ethics code and the state statute, anytime somebody has a question, they can submit it to the ethics board and ask for an advisory opinion, which is prima facie, and if they follow the opinion, it's prima facie evidence that they are trying to comply with the state statute and the ordinance. So the requirements of state statute are that it remain confidential, meaning that the person's name, a title, identifying information, the facts, which would make that person identifiable remain confidential. So we have provided it to you as a memo. The action that can be taken at this point is to deliberate and provide an advisory opinion, refer it to law department to research and issue recommendations to you so that you can issue an opinion. Under either one of those, you do have the opportunity to have the employee meet with you in a closed session. The last option is to advise or direct the law department to act in your stead. That would happen when you determine that significant delays or inconvenience could come to the employee if a decision is not reached soon. So it's up to you how you all want to handle it, what action you want to take, or if you want to take action. We are at your disposal.
We received the confidential memo portion of this earlier this evening, and I, quite frankly, haven't had a chance to review it yet. With this, since I'm assuming it came from your office, do we have a timing issue on this, that it needs to be acted on quickly enough that we need to refer it to your office, or do we need time, or do we have time that we all as a board can review it and then make that determination?
Time is always of the essence. This issue deals with the potential acquisition of real estate.
Okay.
And so time is always of the essence when you're dealing with real estate. However, it's essentially at your discretion as to whether or not you think that it's something that should stay with you or be decided by us.
Any thoughts or questions from anybody?
The fact that the city is not interested in the property, does that relieve him from any conflict? Since there's no longer an interest by the city, is he then free to move forward?
We don't know yet. We have not had a chance to, we got this late last week, so we have not had a chance to fully research it.
So we would have to research it ourselves also, looking at the code of ethics and applying it to it and see that there's a violation or a potential for violation.
So the option is for you to do it or to direct us to do it, yes.
My thought would be direct
I
the
agree.
law department to
Yeah.
take a look at
Option two.
this.
Okay.
And, well, option 2 was for you to review it and report back to us, correct? Option 3
Correct.
was for us to completely refer it to your office and let your office handle it.
Correct.
So we're at, I think, 2 or 3.
2 or 3. I mean, we'd have to meet again then
Right.
within a week or two.
Right, so my thought is that we refer it just to the law department and let them handle it unless something comes up in your review that you need to bring it back to us.
Absolutely.
I agree.
Okay, so I'll put that in the form of a motion that we refer this matter to the law department for their review and response, provided that if in that review there is an issue that the law department determines necessary to bring it back to this committee, that they do that. Is there a second to that?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor signify, well, excuse me, are there any further discussion? All right, otherwise, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. Lastly, motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Does he have another copy?